Okay, so now that we understand what type of lender is going to best meet our needs and who's going to give us the best deal, let's talk about the mortgage process. The first step in the mortgage process is going to be the application process, or what we call the pre-approval process. This is when you're going to set up the relationship with your lender, you're going to turn over your financial documents with the end goal that they issue a pre-approval and they help you establish a home buying budget. So let's jump right into it. There's really 5 core steps of the pre-approval in the application process. Step number 1 is going to be simply talking with your lender. You're going to use the qualifying questions we showed you in the last section. You're going to make sure that you have a good feeling from this lender. Typically, a good first conversation with your lender, they're qualifying you, you're qualifying them. It's their job at this point in the application process to really understand your goals and your objectives. Okay, usually after the first phone call, they're going to ask you to do one of 2 things. They're going to ask you to do an online application, or they're going to ask you to come into their location and do a face-to-face application. 90% of people these days choose to do an online application. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes in front of your computer, and you're going to basically fill out 2 years worth of history when it comes to your employment, your residency, and usually the next step is going to lead right into step number 3, uploading your documents into their online portal. Typically, lenders are going to ask for 2 years worth of income statements and documents, your bank accounts, and then it's very easy to collect items such as your driver's license or a passport. And usually their online portals are easy to use. A red flag, right? If someone's asking you to email them or to come drop off documents, it should be a very streamless and easy process, uploading your application and uploading your documents. From there, the big decision usually with the lender is, are they going to do a soft credit check or a hard credit check? 90% of good lenders these days can do a pre-approval process on just a soft credit check. A red flag should come up if your lender tells you, hey, I have to do this full process on a hard credit check. Okay. If somebody starts telling you that they have to do a hard credit check, the first thing you should be asking is why, right? If you have a very complicated financial profile or you have a low credit score, sometimes that does warrant the lender to request a hard credit check to make sure that they're doing their full due diligence. Usually, the good lender should be able to turn around your application and your documents into a pre-approval within 24 to 48 hours. Usually, when you're talking to the lender, you want to establish how long it's going to take them to deliver your pre-approval. Once they issue the pre-approval, good lenders will set up a conversation or a consultation with you in which they're going to build you your robust budget, and then they're going to go over your mortgage terms and your options. One thing is, when it comes to looking at the different terms, it's usually boils down to doing a 30-year fixed, a 15-year fixed, or adjustable rate mortgages. Right now, because we're in a high interest rate environment in 2024, unfortunately, what we're seeing is 15-year fixed are really not too popular because the spread between a 30-year and a 15-year just isn't there. A really easy hack to remember: if you want to reduce your interest burden, it's very simple to take a 30-year fixed mortgage, pay the same payment as if it was a 15-year, and you end up paying the note off within 14.6 years. So if you want to reduce your interest burden and you're okay with paying a higher monthly, I wouldn't take a 15-year rate right now just because there isn't a large interest rate break like there typically is when we're in a low interest rate environment. If you want to still pay down that note quickly, again, pay it off, pay every month as if it was a 15-year note. When looking at the different products, you really want to depend on the professional that you're dealing with. Hopefully at this point you have a good understanding if they're compensated differently from the different programs that you're offering. And if not, you should be able to trust the professional to be able to bring you or narrow down 2 to 3 loan products for you to consider. The next step is very simple. They're going to issue the pre-approval and they're going to explain to you how you should shop with them in the future. So for example, if you find a home, the lender should give you a very easy way for them to prepare monthly payments for you, prepare closing costs. At this stage, it's going to be very important for you to ask them for a closing cost worksheet. Of course, rates change day to day. You can't lock in interest rate until you actually go under contract for the home in most states, but it's always a good option at this point, once they issue your pre-approval, to have them send you a closing sheet, and at least that way you can start to review not just the third-party fees, but the lender's fees as well. And then really, step 5 is congratulations, you're pre-approved. Okay, so now that we understand the application process and what it's like to get pre approved with one lender, it's important to understand if we need to get pre approved with multiple lenders. For most of us, that answer is simply no. We do not need to get pre approved with multiple lenders. The best time to shop a lender, we're going to go into further detail in a class ahead of us, but the best time to actually shop a lender is when we are under contract and we have a purchase agreement to purchase a piece of property. The reason is that it's best to compare terms all in the same day and when you can actually lock an interest rate. For most of us, we will get a pre-approval and it'll take us months, weeks or months to go ahead and find the right property and go under contract. So imagine now you have to deal with, instead of just one lender that you really like, you're now going to have to deal with 2 to 3 lenders following up with you and asking you questions. So it's best for most of us to stick to one lender as we're getting pre-approved and then shopping lenders once we actually execute a contract. However, for some of us who have complicated employment situations or complicated income situations, it might sometimes make sense to actually get pre-approved with multiple lenders. We have a free download here in this class that's going to basically act as a roadmap for you. So if you have questions, if it's best or most appropriate for you to actually get pre-approved with a lender or multiple lenders, just follow the roadmap that I've prepared for you and it's going to tell you exactly how to handle your situation. So let's jump into it. I'm going to walk you through a couple of these scenarios and that way, again, you get a better feel for what's best for you. So if you're a straightforward W-2 borrower who just takes a salary or an hourly wage, you don't need to get pre-approved with multiple lenders. If you're self-employed, you definitely should seek the advice of or the pre-approval from multiple lenders. The reason is self-employed income can be extremely tricky for lenders, especially for those that are inexperienced, to actually qualify. So if something comes back during your pre-approval process with your first position lender and you don't like what you're hearing or they can't get you pre-approved, seek the advice of someone else. Okay. If you own more than 25% of a company, meaning you're self-employed and you want to use that income, again, it's best if you get set up with maybe 2 to 3 lenders. If you own multiple rental properties and you're using that income to qualify, that might be tricky for a more inexperienced lender to qualify as well. So it might make sense to get pre-approved with, again, 2 to 3 lenders. If your first choice lender started to tell you that they can't reach the budget that you truly wanted, so for example, if I wanted to buy a $500,000 house, and my lender tells me, hey, you're only pre-approved for 400,000 and your income is relatively straightforward, maybe it's best for you to go seek the advice of someone else and see if they can increase your pre-approval. I can't tell you how many times a buyer comes to our firm and they say, hey, my lender pre-approved me at a maximum of $300,000. And then we look at their finances, we find additional income or extra income, or maybe the other lender overlooked something and we're able to add $100,000, sometimes $200,000 to that pre-approval. This is going to be very typical if your first position lender is a corner bank. A lot of the time, they are much more conservative when it comes to their pre-approvals. So again, if this is you and you don't like what you're hearing from your first position lender, go out there and seek the advice of a second opinion. Now, we showed you how to qualify your lenders in the previous class. This becomes extremely important during this process when you're trying to figure out what's best for you as far as getting pre-approved with multiple lenders. If a lot of red flags came up during your questionnaire or your qualifying process, it's probably best to go out there and seek the opinion of someone else. If you've got a really good gut feeling from your lender, your budget is good, then a lot of the times, again, it's not going to make sense for us to go out there and get pre-approved with a different lender. We're going to jump into how to shop lenders in the classes ahead, but quite frankly, again, for most of us, we don't need to go above and beyond and get pre-approved with multiple lenders. Again, if you have questions, click on the link below. You're going to be able to download our form, follow the roadmap, and it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. If you have further questions, utilize the chat function. You can reach me one-on-one and we can discuss your situation directly.